Good morning, everybody. This is Danny from Deep South Homestead, back out here in the high tunnel. Guys, today I have notes with me. I want to make sure that I get as much stuff in this video as I possibly can. Now, you all can see beside me here the lush jungle of English peas. These things are producing like crazy. The high tunnel has been a blessing to us. Now, a couple of things I want to talk about. This is video number 2 in this series. You might want to check out Grow Family Network and Alderman Farms. They'll be doing a collaboration with us on high tunnels.
What's up, guys? I hope everyone is having an amazing 2021 growing season. My name is Mr. Grow, and this is...
Hello guys, my name is Beverly.
And together we've created a YouTube channel called Grow Family Network.
Hey everybody, I'm Tommy.
And I'm Patty.
And we are Alderman Farms.
So first thing I want to talk about is direction. And when I talk about direction, I mean, what direction did we face the greenhouses in? I took into consideration the angle of the sun, severe weather, all these types of things that affect us here in our climate and where we live at. Ours are facing southwest and northeast because we live in a hurricane zone. And when hurricanes come in, our worst wind comes out of the east-northeast. So ours are actually facing in that direction, the end of them is, so that the wind is not hitting against the side of it, it's hitting against the end of it as it goes through. In the summertime, when we have severe thunderstorms or the early spring, they come out of the southwest. So our greenhouses face northeast and southwest. Now, that's not to say that we still won't get them tore up. I mean, acts of God, there's nothing you can do about it. But taking into consideration those factors helps us to feel a little more comfortable. And not only that, it helps us with the angle of the sun. In the wintertime, the sun goes to the south. In the summertime, the sun goes back to the north, and it allows us for ample sunshine for the right time of the year for what we have growing in the greenhouses, because the sun comes up in the east and it sets in the west. We get full sun over these greenhouses because of the angles in which we've put them in. Now, I did mention we have them in a hurricane. We live in a hurricane zone, so we do have to take that into consideration. Ours had a hurricane this past year. Now, it wasn't a bad hurricane, but it was one that was around 100 miles an hour when it came through here, and we actually we didn't suffer any damage from anything. The only thing that we learned was our greenhouses have shade cloth over the top of them, and small twigs from trees blowing through the air hits that shade cloth and it gets hung in it, and just little small twigs, and as the wind sits and rocks them back and forth that high of a speed of wind, it will punch a hole in the plastic. So we have to do a little repair with the tape in places like that. But other than that, we fared really, really well. In a high tunnel, the number one thing is soil, because soil is the life of the high tunnel. Now, ours is not an NRCS high tunnel, as we mentioned in previous videos. Ours is a high tunnel that we purchased ourselves from Growers Solutions. We did that, and we explained in the first video about that. So if you want to know, you'll go over and check that out, all of our thoughts on that. But our high tunnel is all about soil. Now, the NRCS you have to plant in the ground. And I'm not mistaken, but I think you could probably do raised beds as long as you're still in the ground. But we actually rolled out the ground cover on ours, built the beds on top of them, and then filled them with soil. And guys, we took very good caution in this, because our first high tunnel, we messed around and used animal manure off the place in and destroyed one whole side of it, because we didn't know that the hay that the cows had been eating had Grazon, Remedy, 2,4-D, and those types of weed killers used on it, and it destroyed the soil down one whole side of our high tunnel on our other one. So rule number one, be very careful about what soil you put in your high tunnel, because it will determine the success of it. Now, the beauty of putting your own soil in your high tunnel is that you can control what's in it. We mixed ours in here. We mixed our own soil from rotted down trash piles on our property here that had done rotted wood that had turned back into soil, which was loaded with organic matter. We filtered it, got the little pieces of stick and stuff out of it. We didn't worry about little small pieces of rotten wood. They were allowed to stay in it. We put them in here and we mixed it in with some Miracle-Gro potting soil that had the time-release fertilizers in it, because now that we can't use animal manure anymore because we don't trust it, we have to use a commercial fertilizer. So we decided that we opted with the Miracle-Gro potting soil to put and mix in with our own soil. And guys, I mean, look beside me. This is the results. I can't condemn using a potting mix like that mixed in with my own soil. We mixed perlite. We bought 50-pound bags of perlite. We mixed that in with the soil so that we can keep it where it holds moisture. It stays fluffy. It doesn't get packy and all this kind of stuff. And it has turned out to work out really great. Now, our other high tunnel has the whole center of it is not like this. It is all containers. All of our containers in that one has been done with the same soil that we put in the ground in this one. We monitor our soil. We check our pH in the soil. We do extensive fertilization every 2 weeks. Things like that is very important in a high tunnel. We used raised beds in this one rather than planting in the ground, and we had reasons for doing that. One was insect control coming up from the bottom, rodents coming up from the bottom. When we had it in the ground, it seemed like the mole crickets were just horrendous. We could not control the mole crickets. We still have that problem on the one side in this high tunnel over here because we didn't run any fabric under the raised beds on those, and we're having an issue with some mole crickets over there, but I think we've about got that eradicated. Raised beds and containers are our go-to inside our high tunnel. Now I know that Tommy and Patty and Grow Family, Ms. Bev and her husband and them are going to tell you different because they have the NRCS ones and they're going to be growing a little bit different than we do. But that's the beauty of this collaboration, is to show you both sides of the equation in high tunnels now. Now, Grower Solutions carries two or three different types of high tunnels. If you live in an area where there's a snow load, they make one that actually comes, a Quonset hut that comes up to a point in the top and is sloped down so that the snow can actually slide off of it. So if you're in one of those areas where it snows a lot, you might want to take that into consideration when you do a high tunnel. Now, we talked about raised beds, we talked about containers. Now our other one, we have the whole center, both center aisles of it is all in containers. The reason for that is we're growing fruit trees in the other one. And we're raising our dwarf fruit trees in containers where we can control the insect issues in them. And they're not in the ground, they're in a container where we can control the soil, the fertilization. And so far, it has been fantastic over there. Now, what worked well in the greenhouses and what did not work well in the greenhouses? Everything that we have planted so far has worked well in the greenhouse. Now, we haven't had any issues with anything not working well. There are some things that we probably won't plant back in the greenhouse because they'll do just as good outside, and one is tomatoes. Tomatoes will get a whitefly issue in a greenhouse, so we've learned that we're probably going to keep them outside rather than inside. Now, we may still put a plant or two inside, specifically during the early spring or on account of frost and stuff, or maybe in the fall and winter so we can have fresh tomatoes over the fall and winter. But predominantly, tomatoes will probably be grown outside. Now, peppers, we'll probably still grow a couple of pepper plants in here because the peppers in high tunnels, they produce so many peppers until you can take 4 plants in a high tunnel and produce as many peppers as 10 or 15 will outside because of the controlled environment that they're in. Now, people ask us a lot of questions about, well, what about pollinators? Well, this past year we had tomatoes in our greenhouse, in our high tunnel, and you can just go along here and you can just bump them, and they pollinate, because that's how they pollinate with the wind. These English peas, we have not allowed any pollinators in here. We just come through here every day and we shake these vines like this on both sides every day, and they pollinate. So that has taught us that lots of times we don't need certain pollinators with certain crops. Now, we grew broccoli and cabbage and stuff like this. They don't need pollinators. Now, our fruit trees and stuff like that in the other high tunnel, what we do is during the daytime, we leave the doors open, and the pollinators have learned, and they come in and they pollinate. And by evening time, they're usually out and gone. They learn, and as a matter of fact, it was strange to sit and watch when we opened the doors up. Within a matter of minutes, they were in there. They were outside waiting because they knew they were in there. So pollinators, it can be done in a high tunnel. And a lot of people will say, well, you can put your own pollinators in there. Well, you can, but nature will take care of it if you'll work with nature. Now, a lot of people was like, well, what about insect issues? Predominantly, we don't hardly have much of an insect issue inside the high tunnels. The one thing we had a little bit of a problem with was whiteflies in the first one in there. But once we got that under control, it really wasn't an issue. We had a couple of stink bugs got in there, but guys, if you go through it daily and check it, we caught those, we got them out, and we really didn't have any more problems with insects being in the high tunnels. And there's a reason for that. The doors on ours, we have screens on. The long sides that we roll up on ours have screens down them, so that during the nighttime, even though we leave stuff rolled up, insects do not get in here. But now, insects, don't get me wrong, they will find a way in, and when they do, we have bug zappers hanging up in ours, so that at night, any insect that gets in it, they go to that bug zapper light, the bug zapper zaps them. The type we have harvests them, and we unscrew the canister off in the morning, take it out, feed it to the chickens. We get a double benefit out of the bug zapper. Water. Watering greenhouse high tunnels is a lot easier than watering a field out here. If a drought hits and your plants are stressed under drought out in the fields, then you've got to be constantly watering them. In the high tunnels here, we don't have it installed yet because we don't have our well hooked up to it just yet, but we have all the drip irrigation systems that can be installed, and we have all the timers and all that kind of stuff. It's just a matter of getting it done. So far, we just come through with the little dram wands, and we water everything on a daily basis, and it has worked out fantastic. You can control how much moisture to your plants. You see, this speaks for itself. I don't really have to say anything about this. This speaks for itself. And I think if you've ever went back and watched any of our videos on our high tunnels, you will see that they all speak for themselves. The watering issue is not a big deal in here. It's very quick. Usually within 15 minutes we can water both of these high tunnels, and we're out of here. And they're taken care of for the whole day. Now, one of the things I will say that when you have a high tunnel is that you must check them every day, several times a day. You need to come in, you need to monitor the temperatures, whether the sides need to be let up, whether they need to be let down, whether or not, these are high tunnels, you see the fan right back up here, whether or not you need to turn the fans on. We have what we call circulating fans from Grower Solutions up in the top that keeps the air circulating up in the top, that controls the humidity in it. That's the beauty of this design of high tunnel. Now, when you go to Grower Solutions and order one of these high tunnels, you don't get what mine looks like. All you get is the steel framework. I have built many of these in the past for other people. I have my own end wall design that I came up with. These are my end walls. These are my design. They're made to stand up under heavy wind loads and stuff like that. All the extra stuff in the top that you see, that's all stuff I came up with for running conduit for electrical stuff, irrigation, different things like this, strength purposes for the high tunnels. These are all things that are my design. So please don't think when you order from Grower Solutions that you're getting all this stuff. Now you can get this fan right up here, and you can get the circulating fans that's in the corners from Grower Solutions, but these are not normal things that come with the kit. I guess probably one of our greatest assets that we've learned from the high tunnel is the simple fact of the weeding. I spend maybe less than an hour a week weeding both high tunnels, because the weeds, once you get the soil amended and you get the right soil in here, weeds is just not a problem. We don't have a problem with them. And as I pick through here, like if I'm going through here and I'm looking at these English peas like right here, and I'm picking them, and I'm eating me one or two here along as I go, and I happen to see a little tiny blade of grass coming up down here, guys, the first thing I do is I pluck it up while I'm picking my vegetables. If you will do this, weeding will never be an issue for you. These are like candy. You got to be careful. They're addictive. You'll come in here, if you're not careful, you'll catch yourself picking your harvest and just eating it. Wanda and I have had to learn how to discipline ourselves, not to just come out here and walk through here and start picking the ones that are ready off and just start eating them. Because if we do that, we never have any to put up for the future. We're just always eating up what we have here. And you've got it takes a little discipline, but we've gotten there. Now we do still occasionally, like just then I took one off, and I see several more right in here that's really ready, but you know, I tell myself, Danny, if I pick that and eat it, I won't have it for the future. So I've learned to discipline myself in that aspect. But the weeding is very minimal. We just don't have weeds. Now, I mean, it's amazing that you can have soil that's so rich, so moist, growing such beautiful plants, and the weeds almost are non-existent. I think that's just great. Now, another thing about the high tunnels, like we have, now this is not an NRCS one, ours has a controlled environment in it. That's why I liken it to a greenhouse, is because we have the fans, we have lighting, we have the grow lights that we put in mine up here. The other green high tunnel has grow lights installed down through it, so that if we get too many cloudy days, I can flip the grow lights on, and they still get the right amount of sunlight or UV beams that they should be getting. If it reaches a certain temperature, the fans automatically come on. They automatically pull the heat out of the top. The other high tunnel has thermostatically controlled cylinders that opens windows on the top of it, that once the top of the high tunnel reaches 85 degrees is where I have it set, they automatically open up and let the heat out of the top. And because we have the sides rolled up, it creates a vortex of air coming in through the bottom, and you have a vortex of wind coming up in it. And then we also have the circulating fans blowing around and around in the top up here like this, which keeps air movement in a high tunnel. That is the secret to success in a high tunnel, is air flow and air movement. If you've watched our videos for any length of time on these high tunnels, you know that we have two different kinds of shade cloth. Mine has a black shade cloth on it of 40%. We've tried other percentages. 40 is the only one that works for us. This one has a white 40% shade cloth on it. Believe it or not, the darker one actually stays cooler than the white one. We was told it would be just the opposite, but we have found out that it is not the case here where we live at. Mine stays a lot cooler than this one does, and the sun is so much brighter in this one that this one stays a lot warmer than the other one, which is perfectly fine with us, because the other high tunnel is specifically for growing fruit trees and they need chill hours. So we are very excited that that is actually working out the way that it is. Depending on where you live, how much sun exposure you have, and all that will depend on the type of shade cloth that you need and the percentages that you need. Now, people ask us about heat issues. This is probably one of the biggest things that we get asked about, is the heat issues. We grew in ours all summer through the worst 100-something degree temperature outside. And guys, with the high tunnel, when you've got the fans and you can roll the sides up, it's no different. It's actually cooler inside the high tunnel than it is outside, because many times outside would be so unbearable because the sun was just baking us. We could come in here where the sun is not beaming down as intense as it was underneath that shade cloth. The plants are doing a lot better because the sun is not baking them and cooking them, and they are producing way better than they would if they had been exposed to the extremes of the sun. So heat is not really an issue with us with a high tunnel, as long as we have the fan systems and all. And now the automatic vent openers that I have on the other one, they're just thermostatically controlled by heat, by a gel-filled cell or cylinder. So it doesn't take electricity to run those vent openers. So if the power is off, that greenhouse still, or high tunnel still, cools its own self off without us even touching it. We don't have to do anything. And the fans are thermostatically set so that we don't have to worry that in the high tunnel, when the temperature reaches 85 degrees, they automatically kick on and they do their thing. We don't have to actually touch anything. So that is a plus. And last but not least, I want to talk about fertilization. You know, we try to do as organic as we can. But the problem with organic fertilizers is this. I talked about the animal manure earlier, is Grazon, 2,4-D, Remedy, all these types of things. If you're trying to use animal manure and you're not sure of where it comes from. Now, if you're 100% sure of where your animal manure comes from and you know it's not tainted, hey, rabbit manure, stuff like that would be fantastic for greenhouses. As a matter of fact, I've even contemplated getting rabbits again, just so I would have rabbit manure to put back into my high tunnels here. Because we tried growing with rabbit manure and it worked out really good. It's classified as a cold manure, works fantastic. But we will never put cow manure back in ours again. We will not use chicken manure. We will not use any of this stuff. Sheep, goats, because we just don't know where it come from. Today, I use a blend of different fertilizers. I do use synthetic fertilizers. I do use liquid fertilizers. One of my main go-tos is when these plants get where they're at now, where like they've been blooming, is I go to Dr. Earth's Bloom and Grow liquid phosphorus, because plants need phosphorus when they're blooming. And you can see behind me here, I don't think that, like I said, it speaks for itself. Every 2 weeks, we literally saturate the ground in here with liquid phosphorus from Dr. Earth. It's an organic fertilizer, and we use that. Has worked out very well. Now, another thing that we use that's synthetic, we will use calcium nitrate. Every 2 weeks, when the greenhouses, the plants that we feel like that needs it, we will use calcium nitrate. The soil, when we first put it in, we knew what we was going to be growing in here ahead of time, so we went ahead and limed accordingly in order to get our pH up in our soil where it needed to be at, to the optimum. We try to keep it as close to 6.8 to 7 as we can, and that worked out really good. The only problem you run into is if you try to put potatoes or something like that in here, and I'm talking about the red potatoes or the white potatoes. I'm not talking about sweet potatoes because they're not classified as a potato. They're actually a tuber. They're not like a regular potato. They're totally different. They're in the morning glory family. The other ones are in the nightshade family. We put those in over here, and what we had, because the soil was so sweet, we had some potato skins that kind of got an alligator skin look to them, and that was just simply because of the lime in the soil. But fertilization is a big time issue with us. We do use some time released fertilizers. We use A big issue in high tunnels and raising food in them is magnesium deficiencies. So we do use Epsom salt every couple of weeks or so on plants that we feel like that needs it for good growth of the plant. And you can, Hall's Tools sells some products called Fish Emulsion, Micro Boost, all these type things. We use all these things in these greenhouse, I keep calling them greenhouses, in these high tunnels. Because we feel like that by putting all these bacteria back into the soil that the soil needs, and you're not having to be constantly turning it. We have worms in our soil, in our high tunnels, so I mean, all this stuff works out fantastic. They're giving us worm castings back. We're getting lots of benefits from all this stuff, guys. As long as you moderate, the biggest issue you have to watch with synthetic fertilizers is your salt content in your soil. Every so often we'll have a soil analysis done to check our salt content and to see where our minerals and nutrition's at. So far we've not had any problems whatsoever, as long as you're very cautious about what you do. And the question has been asked, when you add new soil, do you turn them, do you mix them? The answer is yes. We do mix all of our soils up when we turn them and put them in, because believe it or not, you can fill these raised beds to the top, and in a year they've already went down an inch or two, because the plants are using up a lot of what's in the soil. So guys, I know this video may have got a little bit lengthy today, but this is the second video in 2 or 3 videos that we're going to be doing about why we grow in high tunnels and the importance of it. Another one, if you believe in chemtrails and the stuff falling from the atmosphere getting on the plants, then we believe in that. We believe that our plants are contaminated when they're outside. You get a better quality plant from inside a high tunnel than you do from being outside. So guys, I'm going to get off of here, but I want to ask you, if you have any more questions concerning high tunnels, just leave us some comments. Let us know your questions. If I haven't covered them, then about this particular style high tunnel, then leave me some questions and I'll try to get back to them, and I'll do my best to try to answer them as honestly as I know how to. If I don't know the answer, I'll just tell you I don't know. Or if I haven't tried it, I'll tell you I haven't tried it. Some things may work better to go with the NRCS high tunnel. We felt like for our application, this was the best way to go. So I hope this has been educational, and I hope that it's really helped you guys out a lot about understanding growing in high tunnels. Thank you guys. Deep South Homestead.